As soon as the second half of August rolls around, for some reason, my Bodacious is about half the size as it is earlier on. It does that every year. I don't mind, because then it makes a nice pairing with the smaller dahlias, such as this Keith H one, which is a water lily dahlia. The other one that drops down in size is my Holly Hill Big Red. Not all of them do. For example, AC Ben, which I'll show you now. Check out the size of this AC Ben. Here's another really big dahlia that keeps its size. This is AC Loomis, one of my all-time favorite ones. It keeps its size right straight through till the first killing frost. It's beautiful. Hi everyone, it's Evelyn. And today we're going to talk about the ABCs of flower farming. And A is super important, but it's done differently for different people. And A is for advertising. Now you do hear a lot of flower farmers talking about their most important form of advertising is through Facebook. I don't do Facebook. For me, the most important forms of advertising is my brand. So my brand is Evelyn M. And it has been for years for interior design, and I have a logo that shows my Evelyn M interior design. I didn't want to change the logo for my flower farm, but I wanted to incorporate that because it is recognizable. I have a street sign for my interior design, like 4 square feet. That's what we're allowed in the city if we have a home office. And I wanted to incorporate my Evelyn M into that. So what I did was I created, this is blown up on a piece of vinyl that I haven't used, so it's been kicking around for over a year. It's getting a little bit damaged, but it's a good example. I created this little abstracted sunflower. Just to show you how it's abstracted, you can see there's a sunflower. There's my abstracted sunflower. And within the center of the sunflower, I put my logo. And in this case, it says flowersbyevelynm.com because my website is evelynm.com. Now, once I got that created, I, of course, created a business card. And I updated my business card this year because I have my YouTube channel on it now. I do not put my phone number on it because I still am doing interior design and I don't want to get flooded with a whole pile of stuff while I'm working. So it just says follow me on YouTube at Evelyn M Vlogs, Seasonal Flowers Roadside at the Flower Wagon with my address and then my website. And that's all I have because really the roadside wagon is self-serve, so nobody really needs to speak to me. And if they do, I do have my sign up on the road on our property with my phone number there. And people have called me if I haven't opened up yet, like if they're there a bit early and they're on their way somewhere important that they need a flower, and they say, is it possible to get a bouquet now? Yeah, sure, no problem. Usually I'm working in my office for at least an hour before I put the flower wagon out and about. I get things done in the beginning on my computer. But anyway, once I had that, last year I decided to do our local farmers market, which is not a big one, it's a small one. But I did that again to advertise my flower wagon. That was the most important thing for me, was to advertise the flower wagon because it's self-serve. It takes the least amount of work. And I don't really have enough flowers on my property to do the farmers market and my flower wagon justice, because we're just a 1/4 acre, which includes our house, garage, and long driveway that runs from the front of the property to the back. Very small growing areas. And it's really difficult to have enough flowers for both the farmers market as well as the flower wagon. But I incorporated my art, like my art cards, etc., at the farmers market to help with sales, which of course it did. And the first year I gave myself a budget to what to invest in for the farmers market. And because I bought a good tent, we're windy here, you need a good tent, and you need to have it being able to be weighted down because it will take off. And since the tent itself was over $400, that was chewing up a good portion of the budget that I allowed for the first year in farmers market. And I'll put a picture up here with Leela and Esri on it so that you can see what it looked like. This year, I decided to upgrade. Now, I wanted a tent that had a banner on it that had my information and my logo, etc. I did not want a big banner at the back of the tent because that creates more windage. And again, we are in a windy spot where the farmers market is. We're really close to the ocean, so it's always windy there. But I noticed that some market vendors had like 1-foot banners that ran along the top of their the outside of the top of their tent, and I thought that was a good idea. I didn't like the way they had them tied on. It looked a little sloppy, so I did some research, and it turns out if you get earth magnets, they stick together really, really well, and you can put it on the outside of your banner and on the inside of the tent, and they just leap that banner in place like you wouldn't believe. So that's what I decided to do. So when I knew that I was going to do that, I designed a banner for a flower wagon. I'll just put a little piece of it here of what I designed, and then I sent it off to the printers. And now I'm going to show you what it looks like. Just one sec. All right, so I'm looking down at the floor of our deck. Here's my banner, and I'm just going to unroll it. It's 10 feet long. I, of course, am unrolling it backwards because that's the way I rolled it up. Oh, and I'm going to have to step on it with my foot in one corner. So there, this lies flat. So it's got little grommets all the way along it that you can use. My tent actually has little ties, so I can tie the grommet on this end and that end, and then get the magnets on it as I go. So I've got my logo on both sides, and then I've got flowers and more by Evelyn M. See if I can stand back so you can see the whole thing, sort of. So that's my banner that I designed and had printed for the front of my market tent. And the other thing is here are the magnets. I'm going to just set this just a sec. Okay, back to this view. So here are the earth magnets. I bought 2 different kinds, and I alternate them because they really do stick together. I mean, they have an unbelievable magnetic force to them, so that when you, oops, that's polarizing opposite. When you put them together, they have such a strong contact that they do a really, really good job of and then sometimes they just accidentally stick together, and yet you don't want them stuck together that way. They have such a strong connection that they do a really, really good job of holding the banner in place. And I'll put a picture up here showing you how I did that. That worked amazingly well, because what happened was that there was a number of people that sorry, I'm stepping down one step and then up again, that were walking by, and they'd look up at the banner and they go, "Oh, you're the flower wagon." So the people were making the connection immediately to the flower wagon to me, which was really good because you have that personal connection then. Now, full disclosure, I'm not doing the farmers market anymore. My flower wagon is busier this year than last year. And I attribute that to doing the farmers market last year. It has to be, because everybody's talking about how sales are down this year, and yet my sales at my flower wagon are up. I will say the sales at the farmers market were down, but the sales at my flowers wagon have been consistently up. Ezra keeps putting her ball up on the table here for me. So I'm putting that down to having done the farmers market last year. Now the other thing, of course, you know, might be my bouquets too, I don't know. But with the sales that I'm having at the flower wagon, it was really, really difficult for me to come up with bouquets as well for the farmers market. So because the sales at the farmers market were down, and because I just didn't have enough flower, I could barely get 4 bouquets together for the farmers market each week. I just decided that I was going to stop doing the farmers market. I actually stopped, I think, the 2nd week in July. And I'm quite happy that I stopped because, like I said, the sales of the flower wagon have been quite a bit higher, and that makes up for that. The other thing is it takes a lot of time. My Saturdays are busy getting flowers together, making bouquets, getting everything else together that I needed. Sunday's the flower market, the farmers market. And it's been so hot that it was really, really exhausting to be there in the heat. And then Monday I'd just be spent and I wouldn't do anything. Since I'm not doing the farmers market, I took on a job for one of my really good customers, and I work 1 day a week. It's a commercial company, so getting the design work and all the stuff that has to be done there, we have 1 day a week set aside for that, and I've been busy doing that, so I was able to take that on because I wasn't doing the farmers market. I wouldn't have been able to take it on if I was, so it all worked out. I'm not sure if I'll be doing the farmers market again next year or not, because that's next year, but I did only just get the banner done 2 weeks before I decided to stop doing the farmers market, but that's okay. Clearly the advertising at the farmers market has worked really well for me last year and the first part of this year, because my sales are definitely up at my flower wagon this year, and that is by far a preferred method of selling. That's my A, that's advertising. Now let's get on to B. Actually, before we get on to B for bouquets, I just wanted to let you know that I'll leave a link below in the description box about how I set up for the farmers market, since I talked about it so much. So that link will be down below. Also, if you're enjoying the video so far, please give it a thumbs up. Now, on with the B's. Well, B in flower farming is obviously for bouquets. I mean, it could go for other things. Birds are important to the garden, but bouquets is probably the most important part of flower farming. And I say that, and yet the first 3 years of flower farming, I didn't do bouquets. I just did cut stems of dahlias and sold those because I didn't have time. I was just super busy. That was, you know, pre-COVID, and I was just super busy with work. I was working 6 days a week, and making bouquets just was not on the table. But single stems of dinner plate dahlias was really easy to do. So that's all I did for the first few years. Now, with COVID, I learned the enjoyment of being a little bit more relaxed, and I'm not working nearly as hard. In fact, I'm taking most of the summer off. I'm still working a bit, but not full time. So I have plenty of time to make bouquets now. And with that, I timed myself to see how long it takes me to make a bouquet when I know my recipe. And when I'm talking about making a bouquet, I'm talking about going outside, cutting the flowers, and then making the bouquet. The whole thing, starting with a pair of scissors to cut them, takes 10 minutes per bouquet. And I think that's pretty good because, like I said, that includes harvesting the flowers. I have a recipe, so it goes really, really fast. Right now, I'm starting with a sprig of Russian sage. This is a really long one. They're not all this big. This one just happens to be that big. I then take 3 ball dahlias, which in this case are Wizard of Oz, but from a tuber where I didn't get any striations in color. And I put 3 of them around the base. Once I have those 3 Wizard of Oz around the base, not Wizard of Oz, pardon me, marble ball. Once I have the 3 marble balls around the base, then I take 4 sunflowers. And I like to do 2 yellows opposite each side. So this one is an orange. And if I have one that's not an orange, I'll do that on the other side. So here I have a double quick. I'll do that on the other side. And then in between for today, I'm going to take, these two are tangled together. Hang on. Untangle. I'm going to take a red lemon, and on the other side I'm going to take another red lemon, so that it's symmetrical at this point. That's it for my sunflowers. So now, I mean, this bouquet is actually quite nice on its own, but I'm known for my dinner plate dahlias, and they go in as well. So in between each sunflower, I'm just going to grab a dinner plate dahlia. This is Thomas Edison. This is AC Big Johnson. And I just push them open with my thumb. This is Wanda Scapella. And then this is Lindsay Michelle. And that's it. That's the bouquet. Nice and fast and easy to do. Then I'm going to take my piece of twine that I've got cut, wrap it around, pull the 2 ends through, tie it, which I'll do down on the table because I can't do that in the air. There are some flower farmers who are able to do that in the air, but not me. Once it's tied, I'm going to take, I'm just going to rest that on top of the bucket. Take my piece of paper, fold it so it's got, looks like that one is folded. Then I'm just going to take it. Well, I'm going to cut the stems first because they are in the way. So let's just, I have a bowl here. I'm just going to cut the stems into it. That had water in it, so I just got my paper all wet. That's okay. So now I'm going to take the wrap. I'm going to start really low around the base. Wrap one side in, and then wrap the other side around. And I'll start to push it up a bit, but before I get too high, I'm going to fold it out. It'd be a lot easier to do if I hadn't dumped water on it. And then I'm going to push it up a bit more. Then I'm going to take my other tie, piece of twine. I ran out of my reused twine from last year, so now I'm on to a new roll. I'm going to run that through, tie it so that the paper stays in place, helps support the flowers. I'm just going to push the bottom of the paper up a bit so it's not so close to the bottom. And I'm going to take the milk jug with the top cut off, set it in there, and it's all ready to go. Probably took me longer than it should have because I'm being distracted by you guys. But that's how I make a bouquet, and that's how I make all my bouquets. The only difference in them is what color of dahlia I choose to use in the bouquet, or what type of sunflower. For example, I could have used, in this bucket, I have a whole pile more double quicks that I still got, but I've also got some, where is it here? That's a white light, and that's a white night. I got some of those. I got a few more red lemons. That's all that I have in this bucket. And yeah, so for the dahlias, I change it up. Now, one thing that I do is as you can see behind me, it's hazy, and that's from, you can't even see, I don't know if you can see it in the normal videos, but behind Quadra Island there, you normally see some mountains. I think from here, because they're not everywhere, but you can't see them these days because of the smoke that's in the air from the inland fires. The haze from the inland fires is keeping the days a little bit cooler, which is nice, which means some of these dahlias that I'm using withstand the day a lot better. Like these marble balls, they do not like it when it's really hot. AC Big Ben does not like it when it's really hot. When it's really hot, I use different dahlias. I'll use my AC Loomis, I'll use my Spartacus, and often on the really, really hot days, those are the two I'll use. I'll use 2 AC Loomis and 2 Spartacus, because those two are the ones that can withstand a really super hot day the best. So I know how my flowers can handle the heat just from experience, and I base what I cut based on the day's temperatures. So mostly I was just cutting AC Loomis and Spartacus for most of the last month because we've been incredibly hot. Man, I used a lot of those. It's getting hot again. It's supposed to go up to 30 degrees again for the weekend, like for Sunday. So I'll be saving my AC Loomis and Spartacus for that. But that's the B's of the ABCs of flower making. Now, let's go on to C. And C stands for compost. And I've got a whole pile of clips that show you how I do my composting at this time of year. Let's get on with that. Before we get on to the compost, we just finished talking about the bouquets. And I do have 2 other videos where I talk about bouquets, specifically bouquets that I made with the first sunflowers of the season. I'll put the link to that in the description box below, as well as I did a video on my bouquets that I made with my Ito peonies, and I'll put a link to that in the description box below as well. Now, let's get on to the compost. Well, I'm getting ready to compost. So, first I have my 2 days worth of kitchen scraps, all nice and full. Lots of orange peels. What else I got in there? Banana peels, apple cores, and some feta cheese that is getting old. Who knows what else is in there. I have dried weeds that I have pulled up from my paths in between the beds. I pull them up and lay them out to dry because it's been so sunny. I have, of course, a dog right here. I have all my various different lettuce plants that need planting, which will start in this bed because I've already composted some of it. And I have 2 days worth of sunflower leaves and dead or broken flowers that I can't use in bouquets anymore. It's restock ball. And these are all the things that I need to do for when I start composting. Now I can't compost the front of this bed because that's where my zucchinis are. And they're doing really nicely. I got zucchinis and they're growing well now. After the garlic that was along the two edges of this bed got pulled up, the zucchini really exploded. So what I've been doing in this bed is I've been digging a hole really deep. The bed's 4 feet wide, and I've done like 4 holes and then moved up. There's a peony here. On this side of the peony I did 2 holes. On that side of the peony I did 2 holes. And I've done 3 this way. So I'm finishing the 4th hole right here where this post is. So to keep the dogs out of it, I've just laid some pieces of lattice work. It's just short little pieces. And put some plant pots on there for weights. And that, whatever that is, put some plant pots on for, as weights. So I'll remove all this so I can start digging the hole and move the dirt out of the way. So you'll see me in a sec once the hole's been dug, because I'm not going to film me digging a hole and moving all this stuff off. Okay, the hole's dug. Here's, I got my runner on the top of the pathway, so you can see how far in the shovel to my finger I've dug down. That's of course through years of composting. I have really good soft soil in there. I know how far this way to dig because those are from my last composting, and I know how far this way to dig because that's from that piece of composting. Look, I even got a piece of scallop shell in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the kitchen compost, take the lid off of it. Get my shovel out of here. And just dump the whole thing in there. Now I'm going to just go get some hose water and rinse that off and dump that in there, and then I'll show you what I do next. Oh, Ezra's dropped her ball here for me again, because that's what she does, don't you? So now I'm going to grab this pile of dried weeds that I left on the path and put that all in there on top of the compost that's in down there. Oops, sorry, I wasn't looking where the camera was pointing. Press that all down there. Before I continue, I just want to say a couple of things. Weeds. Weeds are everywhere. There's weeds in here. There's also lots of Swiss chard in here. But there's definitely weeds in here. Now, the thing with weeds is they give you 3 things that you should consider before you pull them. 1, unless it's an obnoxious weed. But first of all, like for us especially this year, we've had very little rain since the beginning of May, even though we're in a wet climate, but we've had very, very little rain since May. The weeds keep the surface of the soil covered, so they act like a ground cover, and they hold the moisture in because of that. The amount of moisture that they suck up is nothing compared to the amount of moisture that would be lost had the ground been bare. That's number 1. Number 2, all weeds, just like this bachelor button that I pulled up because it was in the, so it's right beside the hole here, the last of the bachelor buttons. This one was where the hole was getting dug. The roots at the bottom of the plant, just like all the weeds, create a beautiful microclimate for all the macro and microbiology, which is what creates your soil health, because they supply the roots. It's like a harmonious little world down here. The biology supplies the nutrients that the roots need, and the roots in turn bring oxygen down to the biology that's living in amongst them. So to leave all the weeds growing, you're creating a really, really beautiful wildlife system, ecoclimate within your soil. That's the number 2 serious benefit of them. Third, when you no longer need the weeds in an area, I certainly don't need them in my paths, but I've been letting them grow anyway because I harvest them. Because I don't bring in any fertilizer or any compost off property, my weeds become an important part of my composting. So the kitchen scraps went all on the bottom. The dried leaves now act like, brown matter. Ezra, take your ball away. And act like brown matter. And then on top of that, I'm going to layer in as much more green matter as I can. I'm just going to literally fill the hole up with all this stuff and push it down. And one reason I push it down is because we are an ocean city and we are up against the forest as well. So rodents will always be an issue. Oh, I'm going to bury Ezra's ball. Rodents will always be an issue, so you don't want them to dig in. So I just pile all the stuff that they don't want to dig through, as much of it as I can. Just keep pushing it down and just keep loading up this hole. Until I've emptied out my 2 days worth of leftover flower matter from the flower wagon. Oh, there's a weed there. I'm just going to pull it up and toss it in there. So that all fills up that hole nicely. Now, granted, I kind of know what size hole to dig because I've been doing this long enough to know. Next thing I'm going to do is take all the soil that I dug out, rake it over top, and tamp it down by putting this empty container on top of it and then just stepping on it to tamp the soil down. So I'm going to do that off camera. So, back in a sec. Okay, I've raked all the soil back over it. And now I put this on here. And I'm stepping down on it to press it down. All this leftover soil, for now, I'm going to put in a pot and take it over to my garbage can that I have behind the Cosmos on the driveway. And store for next spring seed starting. So here I am, where all the cosmos are and the sunflowers. There's our deck up there. Here's the garbage can hidden behind our pot of raspberries. It's a great big pot. I'm going to put it in a bigger pot this winter. And here's the amount of soil that I have that I'm going to dump into there. But first I want to show you how healthy this soil is. So I'm going to take a clump of it up. I'm going to squeeze together. Makes a nice ball. Squeeze it again. And it's all broken apart. The soil is just so healthy, and that's from doing this style of direct composting for quite a few years. I mean, what's that? Take that out. We've been doing this, we had this property, rocks just go in that little pail over there, missed. We bought this property about 9 years ago. And that's how long these beds have been composted this way. But the soil is just so gorgeous. All right, now I'll go show you what I'm going to do back in that bed again. Okay, I have all my lettuce plants here. I have my, what are these? This would be butter lettuce because it's got the tag in it. So this is the beginning of the alphabet on this side. So that's my butter lettuce. I've got 2 of those. Beside that, I'd have to go look at my list to see what they are. I've got another type, it might be another type of butter lettuce. Looks like it. Looks like that's butter lettuce too. Beside that, I have my Drunken Lady leaf lettuce, which I really liked. I'm glad I bought that. I bought it on a whim because of its name, but really, really enjoyed that this summer. And then I have kale. Then I have, still getting romaine lettuce from those pelleted seeds that are now almost 4 years old. I can't believe it. Not that many, but it's the last of the seed packet. But those are pelleted seeds that are 4 years old, and they always say to use them up in the first year because you won't get anything the second year. Well, I may not have gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a weed. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I got most of them. I planted 12 seeds and I got 11. Excellent. And then I have oak leaf lettuce here as well. It's not all going to fit in this bed where I've composted so far, but I'm going to use these areas to put it in. And I'll plant one every 6 inches. And the idea is that because they don't have to get planted that deep because of the compost, but I dug a hole over here just to see how the composting was going. And look, there's no plant matter. There's no kitchen compost. That spot has all composted. So maybe I started a month ago there. The garlic were already planted when I, just before I pulled the garlic, I did 3 spots here in between the garlics. And then I did the edges where the garlics were after the fact, like a half a spot and a half a spot. So let's just say that was about a month ago. And it's completely all gone and looks just like the rest of the soil. That's just awesome. Now I got to go back and, oh look, I got a dog ball on my lettuce already. Got to go back and fill that hole in. And normally I would use, the way I do it is I get my rake, which is over there. I don't use it tong side down. I use it backwards and then just push the soil back in, which is much easier to do, not holding my phone. So I'll see you in a sec. All right, I'm just gonna tip that all out. Just break them all apart. They've been watered, as you can see, they're quite wet. And I'm just gonna plant them about, I don't know, 6 inches apart. I like that spacing. That's what I did this spring. I used to do them 12 inches apart, but I don't have room to do them 12 inches apart. So I'll just kind of put them where they go. That one, that most certainly is. Still 2 here. I know everybody says don't grab your plants by the leaves, but I always do. I actually think that forensically, when you touch things, you put out a fingerprint, a chemical fingerprint. And if you're healthy, that's a healthy fingerprint. And I always think that it's the same as when people talk to their plants, what they're doing is actually breathing healthy air onto them. I think touching them, if you don't take any medications or drugs or whatever, is really, really healthy for them because you're leaving your chemical fingerprint on them. So I do make a habit of manhandling my plants quite a bit before I plant them. And planting them, I mean, the soil's so soft, I'm just gonna dig a hole with my finger, place that there, press it down, go on to the next one. Actually, I should go closer to the edge of the bed because I'll need all the room I can get. So I'll press that one down. I'm going to dig this one back up, make the hole closer to the edge of the bed, plant that one down, come up a little bit, start the second row, same thing, get that guy in there, and so forth and so on. I shall just keep on going. You don't need to watch me do this to all of them. And once I get as many in as I can, I'll be back. Okay, I got them all planted. I've got one type of butter lettuce here, another type here. I've got my drunken lady here. Didn't have as many of them. Some of my oak leaf lettuce here. And then on the other side, this is where my romaine is. Have a lot of oak leaf lettuce. So as these 2 dog barriers get moved down the bed, I'll fill that in with the leftover oak leaf lettuce. The romaine is going to go in a different area. Now I'm just going to seriously soak the crap out of these so that the roots get a nice bonding with the soil. It's not too hot of a day today, partly because there's probably smoke in the air blocking some of the sun's rays from all the fires that we're having in BC. Luckily here on the island, We don't have any major fires. There was a small one on Quadra Island, which is the islands that you see across Georgia Strait when I'm on my deck talking to you guys. But it didn't get out of control. I think that one was a lightning strike. And yeah, it's all puddled up with water, just how I like it. Now I'll just leave the hose here because I'll probably come back in a couple hours and water it again. That's one of my Ito peonies there, by the way. I have 2 in every bed. There's the other one. Like I said, here's my zucchinis. Got a couple nice ones there. Saw a really nice one growing there. There's probably more in there, but you can't see. Here's my cucumber on this trellis. Picked a bunch already, but it's getting lots of good cucumbers on it. I'm basically done for now. I'm not going to plant the kale yet because I'm not 100% sure where I'm planting it. I'm going to ponder that now, and that's not what this video is about anyway. So here's the bonus D of flower farming. D is for dog. Leela and Esri. Leela's the red, Esri's the blonde. They're sisters from the same litter. They had the same mom. They are best of friends. Stay, stay, stay. Sit, sit. Good dogs. They're on the dog bed in my office. Sit, sit. Shake a paw. Sit. Shake a paw. Nope, stay. Shake a paw. Okay, don't shake a paw. Now let's go crazy. Okay.